Second part, VMIX control of the studio Onair with buttons. Arm, take off air, arm, go to air, or arm, go to a fourth non-studio source. Could be an automation system direct to air chain, allowing no studio to be on air, or easy sequencing between the two. Pathfinder stack event, Studio 1, Studio 2. We'll go into Studio 1. First part, discuss the first 9 stack events. Here we'll discuss 10, 11, 12. The number 10 is number 4 is routed on. This is basically similar to on-air indication. We have a qualifier that is checking for the inputs, or sorry, the VMIX input on or off state. See here, it's looking into the engine that's controlling the VMIX, as well as here it says VMIX sub 1 in 4, and the state it's looking for is on. When that condition is met, the qualifier is true. The action to take place is it will turn on a button. The button is identified here, and that would be that yellow button that lit. And here we say to turn the state to on. 100 milliseconds after, we will also change, or if not already created, a memory slot by the number of num4, and we'll give it a value of 1. See here, here's the name, memory slot name, and here's its value, 1. If the VMIX was actually turned off, then the qualifier would have failed, and the actions if qualifiers are not met, we would turn that same button that was turned on here, we turn it off, and we set the num4 value to 0. The run actions on startup is selected, so this stack list will trigger if Pathfinder is restarted. Go num4 has 3 qualifiers. Check to see if in the ARM state, this is just a memory slot check. We're looking for ARM1, and we're checking for the memory slot value of 1. Is num4 off? We're checking to see if the num4 memory slot equals to 0. Num4 equals 0. And the button press. Checking to see if the button that was yellow had been in the down state, as shown there. When all 3 are met, we change the ARM1 memory slot to 0, as well as taking the VMIX sub 1 in 4 to an on state. And the go num4 is the opposite. Still taking a look to see if we're in the ARM state. Checking to see if the button is in the down state, and checking here to see if the num4 value equals 1. When all 3 are met, disarm by changing ARM1 to 0, and take off the VMIX sub 1 in 4. Now the Studio 2, for those 3 num4s on, this is going to be the same. We're still going to be checking for sub 1 in 4 on the qualifier. And if the qualifier is met, one difference here is that we want to classify a different button, because this button is actually in a different studio. So we need to classify a different button. But we're still going to use the num4 memory slot. This is a single memory slot that's going to be shared between stack events to indicate if the source is in an on state or an off state, 1 being on, 0 being off. The other 2 are equivalent. Check to see if we're in armed. And here we're not looking for ARM1, but then we're looking for ARM2 because that's this particular studio's ARM function. Checking to see if num4 is set to the value of 0. Num4 set to 0. And we're checking for that button in a different studio if it's pressed. and hopefully the rest should be self-explanatory.